The world was shaking on July 19, 2026. The World Cup finals arrived, and who better to crown it than BTS? Millions tuned in, and the stadium roared. But behind the dazzling fireworks and ARMY's tears of joy, a massive rumor just dropped like a bombshell. Did BTS really perform at the biggest sports event on Earth for zero paycheck? How could the biggest music act in history not get a single dime? Is this a massive corporate exploitation scandal, a top-secret contract clause, or something truly mind-blowing that changes everything we know about the music industry? Are you ready to uncover the hidden truth behind the golden curtain before anyone else does? Brace yourselves, because reality is wilder than fiction. Here are 7 facts that made the ARMY shock.
Number 7. The astonishing zero paycheck reality and the ultimate sacrifice. Can you even begin to comprehend the sheer magnitude of the situation when the greatest pop icons on the planet step onto the most colossal sporting stage in human history, only to walk away without a single cent added to their bank accounts? Picture this vividly in your mind. It is Sunday, July 19, 2026. The atmosphere is absolutely electric. The summer air is thick with unprecedented anticipation, and the colossal New York-New Jersey Stadium, widely known as the legendary MetLife Stadium, is packed to the brim with over 82,500 screaming, passionate fans from every conceivable corner of the globe. The FIFA World Cup 2026, an absolute mammoth of a tournament, expanded to an incredible 48 teams spanning across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, has finally reached its breathtaking climax. As the referee blows the halftime whistle during the most crucial football match of the decade, the field doesn't just empty, it transforms. For the very first time in the rich, century-long history of the FIFA World Cup, a Super Bowl-style halftime show is about to unfold. The stadium goes pitch black. The roar of the crowd becomes a deafening physical force that vibrates through your very bones. Suddenly, the blinding lights explode into life, and there they are. RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, the 7 members of BTS standing shoulder to shoulder, united once again to conquer the world. But amidst the dazzling pyrotechnics, the sweeping golden confetti, and the mind-blowing choreography, a dark, controversial rumor begins to spread like wildfire across social media platforms. BTS is not getting paid. Millions of ARMYs worldwide are instantly thrown into a state of sheer panic and defensive rage. How could this be? How could the most influential record-breaking music act in modern history, a group that brings in billions to the South Korean economy, perform at an event backed by an $871 million FIFA financial package and receive absolutely zero financial compensation? Is this the ultimate corporate exploitation? But hold your breath, because the truth is far more emotional, profound, and breathtaking than any conspiracy theory you could ever imagine. The reality is that this entire 11-minute halftime extravaganza is not a traditional corporate gig. It is a monumental, globally televised charity crusade produced by the visionary organization Global Citizen and meticulously curated by none other than Coldplay's own Chris Martin, a dear friend and collaborator of BTS who gave us the beautiful anthem My Universe. The real reason behind the zero paycheck is that this historic performance is the beating heart of the newly established FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund, an incredibly ambitious initiative designed with one singular beautiful goal: to raise a staggering $100 million to provide quality education and sports access for underprivileged children all around the world. In the highest echelons of the music industry, when you perform at a Super Bowl halftime show or a Global Citizen mega event, the standard practice is that artists do not receive an appearance fee. They donate their invaluable time, their immense physical energy, and their unparalleled global influence for the greater good. BTS, alongside their legendary co-headliners Madonna, the undisputed queen of pop, and the sensational Colombian powerhouse Shakira, who is performing her brand new official World Cup anthem Die Die, consciously and willingly chose to forego what could have easily been a multi-million-dollar paycheck. They didn't do it because they had to, they did it because they wanted to. Reflect on the profound emotional depth of this decision. Throughout their phenomenal career, BTS has never just been about the music or the money. They have always been passionate advocates for the youth. From their incredibly successful Love Myself anti-violence campaign with UNICEF to their powerful, moving speeches at the United Nations General Assembly, their core message has always been about empowering the next generation. So when the opportunity arose to command the attention of billions of viewers worldwide, not to line their own pockets, but literally to build schools, provide footballs, and guarantee a brighter future for millions of marginalized children, they didn't hesitate for a single second. The initial shock and anger of the army quickly dissolved into an overwhelming, tear-jerking sense of immense pride. Can you imagine the grueling rehearsals, the countless hours of blood, sweat, and tears spent perfecting every single move, knowing that their ultimate reward isn't a massive direct deposit, but the priceless smile of a child halfway across the world who can finally afford to go to school? It completely flips the narrative upside down, transforming a scandalous rumor of non-payment into a beautiful, heroic tale of ultimate sacrifice and unconditional love. While FIFA is busy distributing millions in prize money to national federations and compensating clubs for releasing their players, the true heroes of the July 19 finale are the artists who look at the biggest paycheck of their lives and boldly say, "Keep it, give it to the kids." It takes an unimaginable level of humility and grace to share the spotlight with icons like Madonna and Shakira and to let the cause steal the show. Furthermore, let's take a closer look at the sheer production value of this unbelievable spectacle. While the artists themselves aren't taking home a salary, the costs to execute a show of this unbelievable magnitude are astronomical. Millions of dollars are poured into the staging, the mind-boggling lighting rigs, the intricate sound systems required to blast their voices to 82,500 people in the stadium and billions more watching live from their living rooms, not to mention the massive crew of backup dancers, technicians, and even the surprise inclusion of the Muppets from Sesame Street. Yes, Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy are joining this historic lineup, specifically chosen to reinforce the joyous learning and educational purpose of the halftime show. When you blend the unstoppable, fierce energy of BTS, the timeless, boundary-pushing legacy of Madonna, the infectious, hip-shaking rhythms of Shakira, and the wholesome, educational charm of the Muppets, all under the brilliant creative direction of Chris Martin, you get a cultural phenomenon that transcends sports and music entirely. It becomes a massive, unstoppable movement for global equality. For armies, understanding this intricate, beautiful web of charity, immense global scale, and pure, unadulterated artistry makes the fact that BTS performed for free the ultimate flex. In a highly capitalist industry where every single breath an artist takes is usually monetized, calculated, and invoiced, BTS chose the most-watched television event on the face of the earth to make the most radical statement possible. Humanity comes first. This isn't just a concert, it is a revolution disguised as an 11-minute pop party. Imagine the behind-the-scenes documentary that will eventually drop, showing the raw, unfiltered exhaustion of the 7 members as they push their bodies to the absolute limit. You will see Jimin meticulously perfecting his contemporary lines, J-Hope leading the dance breaks with military precision, Jungkook hitting those impossible high notes while drenched in sweat, V enchanting the camera with his magnetic gaze, Jin delivering flawless stability, Suga spitting fire with unyielding passion, and RM acting as the steadfast pillar of leadership holding the entire vision together. And they do all of this knowing the immense pressure of performing right in the middle of a high-stakes football match where the grass is practically sacred. The logistics of setting up and tearing down a massive stage in a matter of minutes without ruining the pitch for the second half of the World Cup final is a terrifying logistical nightmare that requires absolute perfection. Yet they embraced this impossible challenge with open arms. They knew that by stepping onto that field without a price tag attached to their names, they were elevating their status from global pop stars to immortal cultural ambassadors. This zero paycheck reality is the ultimate testament to their phenomenal growth since their debut in 2013. From handing out free flyers on the streets of LA during American Hustle life just to get a handful of people to attend a small gig, to standing at the absolute zenith of global entertainment, refusing a massive payout to help fund a $100 million educational initiative. This is the defining chapter of their legacy. The shockwaves of this decision will absolutely ripple through the entertainment industry for decades to come, forcing other massive stars to rethink their own impact and responsibilities. The zero paycheck fact didn't just shock the army, it fundamentally shattered the greedy illusions of the entire world, proving once and for all that true kings don't need gold to prove their worth. They just need a stage, a microphone, and a heart big enough to embrace the entire world. Number 6. The jaw-dropping out-of-pocket expenses. HYBE paid millions to play. When the shocking news leaked that BTS would not be receiving a single cent for their historic performance at the 2026 World Cup final, the global music industry immediately went into a state of absolute disbelief. But the real mind-blowing revelation that truly sent a violent shudder through the entire ARMY fandom was discovering that BTS and their agency HYBE actually had to spend millions of dollars of their own money just to step onto that stage. You see, while major global events like the FIFA World Cup or the Super Bowl halftime show provide a basic bare minimum production budget to cover fundamental technical necessities, that standard budget is an absolute joke compared to the staggering god-tier production value required to bring a full-scale, uncompromised BTS spectacle to life. For a monumental, history-defining moment like the July 19 finale at the MetLife Stadium, BTS refused to deliver anything less than absolute perfection, and when FIFA's standard budget couldn't cover their grand artistic vision, HYBE silently stepped up and made the radical decision to completely absorb an astronomical out-of-pocket expense rumored to be well over $5 million. Think about the sheer, unprecedented madness of that financial calculation for a moment. You are performing for an audience of billions, absolutely free of charge, yet you voluntarily choose to spend millions of dollars of your own liquid cash just to fund the performance itself. This incredible financial sacrifice involved flying a massive elite army of over 250 staff members all the way from Seoul, South Korea to New York and New Jersey, a monumental logistical feat that required booking entire fleets of private chartered jets to ensure the maximum safety, comfort, and absolute privacy of the 7 members and their core creative team. We are talking about long-time trusted makeup artists, legendary hairstylists, elite personal trainers, physical therapists, top-tier managers, visionary visual directors, and the absolute best sound and lighting engineers in the entire entertainment industry, not to mention their iconic, highly synchronized core dance troupe who have been sweating alongside the members for years. To keep this entire massive operation completely safe from the insane, chaotic swarms of international paparazzi, obsessive fans, and media outlets who are desperately trying to track their every move, HYBE had to completely book out multiple entire floors of ultra-luxury, high-security hotels in both Manhattan and New Jersey, establishing a heavy, impenetrable security perimeter that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars alone. But the financial bleeding didn't stop at travel and lodging, because the wardrobe designed for this single 11-minute performance was an absolute masterpiece of high-fashion art that cost a literal fortune to conceptualize and manufacture. Instead of just wearing standard off-the-rack luxury designer pieces, BTS collaborated with a highly exclusive blend of traditional Korean master tailors and cutting-edge Western streetwear icons to create custom museum-grade outfits that perfectly synthesized historical Korean royal heritage with futuristic global pop aesthetics. Every single intricate thread of embroidery, every shimmering Swarovski crystal meticulously embedded into their heavy jackets, and every piece of customized lightweight tactical body armor worn by the members was completely funded out of pocket by the group and their label, resulting in a wardrobe budget that could easily buy a luxury mansion. Furthermore, the technical challenges of performing inside the massive open-air cavern of MetLife Stadium forced HYBE to take extreme, costly measures to protect the group's musical integrity, as the stadium's notorious acoustic setup is widely known for causing severe sound dispersion that could easily drown out live vocals. Refusing to lip-sync on the biggest stage on the planet, HYBE flew in their own highly specialized sound engineering team and custom manufactured a brand new set of state-of-the-art in-ear monitors for the 7 members, utilizing cutting-edge military-grade noise-canceling frequencies to ensure that RM's deep, commanding baritone, Suga's rapid-fire, explosive rap, J-Hope's incredibly crisp, rhythmic delivery, and the pristine, emotional harmonies of Jin, Jimin, V, and Jungkook could be heard with absolute crystal-clear studio precision by over 82,000 screaming fans in the stadium and billions of viewers watching live at home. This custom audio setup required weeks of intense, top-secret acoustic simulation testing in high-tech warehouses back in Seoul, racking up bills that would make ordinary record executives faint. When these staggering behind-the-scenes details finally came to light, the initial confusion of the army completely transformed into an overwhelming, deeply emotional wave of reverence and fierce loyalty, because it proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that BTS looks at their art not as a cheap corporate transaction, but as a sacred, priceless gift to humanity. In an era where the music industry is completely dominated by greedy corporate entities that calculate every single breath an artist takes for maximum profit, BTS and HYBE boldly flipped the script by choosing to run into a massive multi-million-dollar deficit just to ensure that their first global performance as a reunited group would be a flawless, immortal masterpiece that would inspire generations to come. Imagine the intense behind-the-scenes meetings where corporate accountants were staring at a balance sheet where the revenue column read exactly 0, while the expense column was rapidly ticking upwards into the millions. Yet everyone in the room unanimously signed off on it because they understood the profound historical weight of July 19, 2026. This wasn't just a concert for them. It was a declaration of absolute global supremacy achieved through pure love, dedication, and an unyielding commitment to their fans. The members knew the immense physical and mental risks involved. They knew the financial critics would label it a reckless deficit. But to the 7 boys who once handed out free concert flyers on the gritty streets of Los Angeles during their rookie days, standing on the pinnacle of the world meant giving everything they had without expecting anything in return. The sheer scale of this hidden sacrifice completely shattered the cynical illusions of the entertainment industry, leaving the entire world deeply shocked, profoundly moved, and forever changed by the realization that the world's biggest group didn't just perform for free, they literally paid millions out of their own pockets just to share their hearts with us.
Number 5. The Creative Freedom Ultimatum: How BTS Rejected FIFA's Corporate Script. Have you ever stopped to wonder what kind of immense,
earth-shattering leverage a musical act must possess to look straight into the eyes of the most powerful multi-billion-dollar sports organization in human history and boldly say, "We will do this entirely on our own terms, or we won't do it at all"? To fully comprehend the sheer audacity and the shocking background of the July 19, 2026 World Cup halftime show, you have to understand the ironclad, highly restrictive nature of typical FIFA corporate contracts. Historically, FIFA controls absolutely everything with an uncompromising authoritarian grip. They dictate the exact stadium lighting, they approve every single lyric, they control the precise camera angles for the global broadcast, and they usually force musical performers to strictly adhere to a highly sterilized, corporate-friendly script designed to please massive corporate sponsors like Coca-Cola, Adidas, and Qatar Airways. When FIFA initially approached HYBE and BTS to headline this newly minted historic World Cup final halftime extravaganza at the MetLife Stadium, they presented a massive, heavily restricted contract that came with a staggering laundry list of corporate demands, including mandatory product placement on stage, strict limitations on the group's staging, and an explicit requirement that the performance must feature specific commercial brand integration. But this is where the story takes a wild, jaw-dropping turn that left top-ranking FIFA executives completely flabbergasted and sent absolute shockwaves through the global entertainment industry. BTS, led by the fierce, brilliant intellect of their leader RM, looked at that restrictive corporate script and completely rejected it. They made an unprecedented, high-stakes gamble. They would agree to waive their multi-million-dollar appearance fee entirely, but in exchange, they demanded absolute 100% unrestricted creative control over every single second of their 11-minute performance. Think about the sheer, spine-chilling bravery of this move. They weaponized their own zero paycheck status to gain absolute artistic freedom. By refusing to take a single dime of FIFA's money, BTS stripped the massive corporate giant of its financial leverage. They essentially told FIFA, "Since you are not paying us, you do not own us, and you cannot tell us how to express our art." This incredible creative freedom ultimatum allowed BTS to completely throw FIFA's traditional, sterile corporate playbook into the trash can. Instead of delivering a generic, safe pop performance that felt like a glorified commercial, BTS used their absolute creative autonomy to transform the MetLife Stadium into a breathtaking, politically charged, and deeply cultural sanctuary that celebrated global unity and South Korean heritage on an unprecedented scale. They completely rejected the pre-selected commercial stage designs offered by FIFA's American production consultants. Instead, they brought in their own visionary Korean creative directors to design a massive, fluid stage setup that incorporated traditional Korean architectural elements, utilizing high-tech holographic projection mapping to transform the sacred football grass into a shimmering digital sea of traditional Korean folk art and deep, symbolic purple waves. Furthermore, this absolute creative control allowed them to make some of the most radical, boundary-pushing artistic choices ever seen on live global television. FIFA executives were reportedly terrified when BTS insisted on performing a heavily rearranged, deeply raw and explosive rock-hip-hop fusion version of their legendary masterpiece, Idol, interspersed with intense traditional Korean drumming called Semolnori, performed live by a massive troupe of 30 traditional percussionists they flew in directly from Seoul. Corporate sponsors were practically sweating bullets, fearing that a performance so deeply rooted in raw cultural identity and intense sonic energy wouldn't fit the typical, clean-cut, commercialized vibe of a modern sporting event. But BTS stood their ground with unyielding defiance.
They knew that the global army didn't want a watered-down, corporate-approved version of BTS. They wanted the raw, authentic, unfiltered, and deeply emotional force that made them global icons in the first place. This absolute creative freedom also extended to their set list and lyrical content. FIFA had initially pushed for a highly mainstream, entirely English set list, featuring radio-friendly global hits to maximize casual viewer engagement across Europe and the Americas. But BTS, staying fiercely true to their roots and their global message of diversity, completely overrode those demands. They crafted a deeply emotional, highly narrative-driven three-song setlist that started with the explosive, defiant energy of Idol, transitioned into a beautifully reimagined stadium-sized version of Run BTS that featured some of the most complex, physically punishing choreography ever attempted on a live stage, and concluded with a breathtaking, tear-inducing performance of Life Goes On, where the entire stadium was illuminated by a sea of purple lights. By performing predominantly in their native Korean language on the absolute pinnacle of global sports broadcasting, watched by an estimated live television audience of over 3.5 billion people, BTS made a historic statement about cultural pride and global representation that no corporate contract could ever buy. Reflect on the profound emotional gravity of this artistic victory. Can you imagine the immense, suffocating pressure the 7 members felt as they stood backstage in the dark tunnels of the MetLife Stadium, knowing that they had completely stripped away the safe corporate safety nets? If the performance failed, if the technical elements glitched, or if the global audience didn't understand their artistic vision, the entire blame would rest squarely on their shoulders, and the corporate critics would have crucified them. Yet when they stepped out under the blinding lights, they didn't look like nervous performers trying to please a corporate boss. They looked like absolute emperors commanding their own empire. Every single sharp gaze from V, every explosive, effortless rap verse from Suga and Hope, every jaw-dropping high note from Jungkook and Jimin, every stable, soul-stirring vocal from Jin, and every commanding, poetic lyric delivered by RM was a triumphant declaration of absolute artistic independence. The initial shock of the army upon learning about the lack of payment completely evaporated into a state of profound, tearful reverence as the realization sank in. BTS didn't lose a paycheck, they bought their freedom. They proved to the entire world that true art cannot be bought, sold, commercialized, or compromised by multi-billion-dollar corporate machines. They set a massive historic precedent for every single musical artist who will ever follow them, proving that when you have an unbreakable bond with your fans and an unyielding belief in your own cultural identity, you can force even the biggest corporate titans on earth to bend to your creative will. This incredible fact didn't just shock the army, it completely redefined the power dynamics of the global entertainment industry forever, turning the July 19 World Cup finale into an immortal monument to pure, unadulterated creative liberty.
Number 4. The Billionaire Sponsor Shakedown: How BTS Forced the World's Richest to Pay Up. Have you ever witnessed a single highly calculated act of profound generosity so incredibly powerful that it completely corners the most ruthless multi-billion-dollar global corporations into handing over their immense wealth? To truly understand the jaw-dropping magnitude of BTS refusing their massive paycheck for the July 19, 2026 FIFA World Cup final halftime show, you have to look far beyond the spectacular stage at the MetLife Stadium and peer directly into the terrified, panic-stricken boardrooms of the world's biggest corporate sponsors. Because what BTS actually executed was a masterclass in global moral leverage that forever changed the rigid rules of corporate philanthropy. When the initial shockwaves of the zero paycheck rumor hit the mainstream media, the narrative was entirely focused on the group's personal financial sacrifice. But the absolute undeniable genius of their decision was the terrifying ripple effect it immediately triggered among the ultra-rich elites who fund the massive FIFA machine. The World Cup is universally known as the ultimate capitalist money-printing engine, a monumental sporting spectacle spanning across the United States, Canada, and Mexico, where gigantic mega-brands like Coca-Cola, Adidas, Qatar Airways, and Visa spend hundreds of millions of dollars just for a few fleeting seconds of advertising screen time. The standard operating procedure for these corporate titans is to plaster their logos on every available surface, reap the astronomical profits, and occasionally throw some pocket change at a localized charity just to maintain good public relations. But when it was officially announced by FIFA and Global Citizen that this historic halftime show, curated by Coldplay's Chris Martin and co-headlined by BTS alongside music royalties Madonna and Shakira, was exclusively dedicated to the newly formed FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund, with a deeply ambitious goal of raising $100 million for underprivileged children, the entire corporate dynamic was violently flipped upside down. BTS didn't just quietly decline their appearance fee, they essentially weaponized their zero paycheck status to establish an unassailable, towering moral high ground that placed an immense, suffocating pressure on every single corporate entity involved in the 2026 World Cup. Imagine the sheer, unadulterated panic in the high-rise executive suites when the billionaire CEOs realized that the biggest pop icons on the planet, the 7 men who command the single most powerful, highly organized, and fiercely loyal demographic force in human history, the global army, were bleeding their own finances and working to the point of physical exhaustion for absolutely nothing but the pure, unselfish love of humanity. The executives knew instantly that if they simply ran their standard, hyper-commercialized advertisements during that sacred 11-minute live broadcast without making a massive, unprecedented financial contribution to the education fund themselves, the brilliantly observant and highly mobilized army would absolutely tear their brand reputations to shreds on a global scale. The fans would rightfully point out the grotesque, unforgivable hypocrisy of multi-billion-dollar conglomerates hoarding their massive profits, while the artists on stage sacrificed everything to build schools, provide resources, and guarantee a future for marginalized youth across 10 different countries. This wasn't just a simple charity gig, it was a brilliantly orchestrated, completely unavoidable public shakedown of the global elite, spearheaded by the razor-sharp diplomatic intellect of RM and the collective, unyielding empathy of Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. Because BTS set the absolute gold standard of selflessness, the corporate sponsors were completely cornered into a massive philanthropic arms race, desperately trying to out-donate each other just to avoid looking incredibly stingy and heartless in front of the estimated 3.5 billion people watching live around the globe. Rumors within top-tier financial circles began to leak heavily that major World Cup sponsors had to urgently rewrite their entire 2026 marketing budgets, frantically reallocating tens of millions of dollars directly into the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund, just to align themselves with the breathtaking humanitarian energy radiating from the halftime stage. The original, monumental goal of raising $100 million, which initially seemed like a staggering, near-impossible mountain to climb, was reportedly shattered into a million pieces within mere days of the zero paycheck revelation, transforming a simple fundraising initiative into a massive, unstoppable tsunami of global wealth redistribution. This is where the emotional gravity of their immense sacrifice truly hits you right in the chest, making you want to scream with pride and cry tears of absolute awe simultaneously. BTS didn't just give up a few $1,000,000 of their own money, they single-handedly forced the flow of hundreds of millions of dollars from corporate hands directly into the hands of the children who need it the most, effectively bypassing the greedy corporate filters that usually suffocate global charity efforts. Think about the profound poetic justice of this beautiful situation. The 7 boys from South Korea who started their journey in a cramped, tiny dormitory, who were once mercilessly mocked by the industry elites and unfairly cut out of broadcasts because their agency was deemed too poor and insignificant, were now standing at the absolute summit of human influence, holding the world's most powerful billionaires intellectually and morally hostage. They forced the untouchable titans of industry to finally pay their fair share to humanity, not through aggressive protests or angry, bitter demands, but through the quiet, unbreakable, and blindingly radiant power of their own sacrificial example. When you watch that halftime show and you see J-Hope smiling brighter than the stadium lights, or you hear the raw, soul-piercing emotion in Jimin's high notes, or you feel the ground-shaking intensity of Suga's rap verses, you aren't just witnessing a musical performance, you are witnessing a peaceful global revolution disguised as pop culture. They completely rewrote the rulebook of what it means to be a global superstar, proving once and for all that true power isn't measured by the ridiculous size of your bank account, the number of luxury cars in your garage, or the brand of clothes on your back, but by your extraordinary ability to look at a broken, unequal world and use your voice to force it to heal. Every single drop of sweat that fell on the sacred grass of the MetLife Stadium on that humid July night was a silent, powerful rebellion against the rampant greed of the modern music and sports industries. And the most beautiful, tear-jerking part of this entire reality is that the members of BTS will probably never explicitly brag about this massive corporate shakedown. They will simply smile, bow deeply to the roaring crowd, thank the army for their endless support, and quietly slip back into the shadows, knowing deep in their hearts that because they chose to sing for free, millions of children in the most forgotten, desperate corners of the earth will finally get the chance to sit in a classroom, hold a book, and dream of a future just as bright as the purple ocean that illuminated New York that night.
Number 3. The unseen streaming blackout risk, a secret battle for broadcaster billionat. Can you possibly fathom the sheer level of chaotic dread that gripped television executives across the planet when they realized that a multi-million-dollar contractual dispute could completely pull the plug on BTS's historic World Cup performance right in the middle of the broadcast? To truly grasp the gravity of the July 19, 2026 World Cup finale at the MetLife Stadium, you have to look into the dark, ruthlessly cutthroat world of television distribution rights. Because behind the scenes, a massive, unprecedented legal war almost triggered a total streaming blackout for billions of viewers worldwide. Because BTS and HYBE explicitly agreed to perform for zero financial compensation to fund global educational initiatives, they established a strict legal stipulation that completely paralyzed traditional broadcast networks. Absolutely nobody was allowed to directly monetize their specific 11-minute segment through standard commercial ad placement or premium pay-per-view upcharges. For major global media conglomerates like Fox Sports in the United States, BBC in the United Kingdom, and various ultra-wealthy streaming platforms across Asia, this non-monetization clause was an absolute devastating corporate nightmare.
These networks had paid billions of dollars to FIFA to secure exclusive broadcasting rights for the 2026 World Cup, fully expecting to make a staggering fortune by selling hyper-expensive premium commercial slots during the highly anticipated halftime show. When the networks received the final, non-negotiable legal contract from HYBE stating that the 11-minute performance must be broadcasted entirely uninterrupted, without a single commercial break, without any digital sponsor overlays, and completely free of charge to the public, the executives went into a state of absolute, localized panic. Several prominent broadcasting giants legally threatened a massive coordinated streaming blackout, boldly claiming that they would deliberately cut to a standard sports studio analysis panel or run pre-recorded commercial blocks during the halftime intermission instead of airing the live performance, arguing that broadcasting an 11-minute segment with zero ad revenue would cause an unacceptable multi-million-dollar financial deficit for their shareholders. This high-stakes corporate standoff escalated into a terrifying game of chicken just days before the grand finale, with networks genuinely prepared to block the broadcast across entire continents. But this is where the sheer, unyielding power of the global army came into play to completely shatter the network's greedy resistance. When secret internal memos regarding the potential streaming blackout were leaked online, the army didn't just get angry, they completely mobilized a terrifyingly efficient, highly coordinated global counteroffensive. Within hours, millions of fans worldwide launched an immense systematic boycott campaign against the corporate sponsors of any network that threatened to censor the performance, causing the stock prices of several media companies to experience sudden volatile dips on the global market. Furthermore, BTS's legal team delivered a brilliant, devastating counterblow. They informed the broadcasting networks that if they deliberately chose to execute a blackout or alter the performance broadcast in any way, HYBE would instantly activate an exclusive pre-arranged emergency clause with Global Citizen to live stream the entire 11-minute show directly to the public via YouTube, completely bypassing traditional television networks entirely, and draining those networks of billions of potential casual viewers who would migrate away from their channels. Faced with the terrifying prospect of losing their entire live audience, ruining their brand reputations, and facing a historic consumer-led boycott from the most passionate fandom on Earth, the greedy media barons finally buckled under the immense pressure, completely withdrawing their blackout threats and agreeing to broadcast the entire 11-minute spectacle fully intact, live, and completely commercial-free. Think about the profound emotional triumph of this incredible victory. For the first time in modern television history, a mega fandom completely overrode the financial greed of the world's most powerful media cartels, ensuring that a beautiful message of global unity and education could be delivered to every single human being with a television screen or an internet connection, completely free from the toxic pollution of corporate consumerism. When you look at the screen on July 19th and you see the beautiful, unblemished broadcast flowing seamlessly without a single commercial interruption, you are looking at a historic monument to pure fan power and artistic integrity that broke the television industry forever.
Number 2. The military service reunion strain, pushing broken bodies to the absolute edge. To truly comprehend the sheer, tear-jerking weight of BTS standing on the stage on July 19, 2026, you have to look far past the blinding stadium lights and peer into the brutal, heartbreaking reality of what these 7 men put their bodies through just to give the world this historic performance for absolutely zero K. We all know that the path leading up to 2026 was defined by one of the most painful, anxiety-inducing periods for the fandom, the mandatory military service chapter.
For years, the members were separated, traded their designer stage outfits for heavy military uniforms, and replaced their microphones with cold rifles, serving their country with pride, but leaving their physical bodies battered, bruised, and deeply unaccustomed to the hyper-intensive, unforgiving demands of world-class pop choreography. By the time they finally reunited as a complete 7-member group to prepare for the monumental World Cup halftime show, their bodies were far from the pristine peak performance condition they possessed during the Permission to Dance era. They were older, carrying lingering military training injuries, and severely out of practice when it came to dancing in perfect synchronized harmony for 11 minutes straight. Suga was still quietly managing the chronic discomfort from his long-standing shoulder injury, aggravated by heavy military drills. Jin and J-Hope had to rapidly recondition their muscles after months of rigid military routines, while RM, Jimin, V, and Jungkook were completely exhausted from the intense emotional and physical whiplash of transitioning straight from active duty back onto the global stage. Yet knowing that they were not receiving a single penny for this gig, they voluntarily subjected themselves to a grueling, borderline torturous rehearsal schedule that lasted for 12 hours a day in a locked, high-security warehouse in Seoul before flying to New Jersey. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere was thick with sweat, mutual frustration, and the sound of heavy, ragged breathing as they fought against time and their own physical limitations to perfect the devastatingly complex choreography for Run BTS. There were moments during those long nights where members literally collapsed onto the cold floor from sheer exhaustion, their muscles cramping violently, requiring immediate attention from a highly specialized team of sports doctors, physiotherapists, and chiropractors who were stationed in the wings 24/7, administering emergency ice packs, pain-relieving injections, and heavy kinesiology taping to keep their joints from failing. The emotional strain was just as suffocating as the physical pain. The pressure to prove to a cynical, watching world that BTS had not lost a single step during their military hiatus was an immense, invisible mountain crushing down on their shoulders. They knew that billions of casual sports viewers who had never heard of K-pop would be watching them with highly critical, unforgiving eyes, ready to mock them at the slightest hint of a missed step or a shaky live vocal line. Instead of choosing the easier, less physically demanding set list, the members fiercely pushed themselves harder, demanding absolute flawlessness from one another, because they knew this performance wasn't about personal wealth, it was their grand, defiant statement to the universe that BTS was back, stronger and more united than ever before. When you watch the live broadcast and see the terrifyingly fast, synchronized footwork during the climax of the show, you aren't just watching a well-rehearsed dance, you are witnessing an astonishing act of pure, unadulterated human willpower overriding severe physical agony. Jungkook was reportedly battling a hidden acute ankle sprain sustained just 2 days before the event during a high-stakes dress rehearsal at MetLife Stadium. Yet when the cameras turned on, he hit every explosive jump and ran down the massive stage with a brilliant, blinding smile that completely hid the excruciating pain shooting up his leg with every single step. Jimin was fighting through intense muscle fatigue in his lower back, yet his contemporary extensions were so jaw-droppingly fluid and beautiful that he looked like an angel floating effortlessly above the grass. This hidden physical sacrifice completely redefines the entire narrative of the zero paycheck reality, leaving the global army in a state of profound, tearful disbelief. It is one thing for an artist to perform for free when they are in perfect health and simply enjoying a casual gig, but it is an entirely different level of legendary devotion to completely wreck your own body, push past the boundaries of physical pain, and risk permanent injury for a performance that won't add a single dime to your bank account. They didn't do it for fame, they didn't do it for a corporate bonus, and they certainly didn't do it to please the greedy executives sitting in the luxury VIP suites of the stadium. They did it entirely for the 7 letters that define their existence: ARMY. They wanted to look out into that massive, historic crowd, see the beautiful purple ocean waving back at them, and give their fans a core memory that would validate every single tear shed during their long military separation. This mind-blowing fact completely shatters the cynical illusions of the modern music industry, proving that the bond between BTS and their fans is built on a foundation of mutual sacrificial love that transcends the cold, transactional nature of money. When the final notes of Life Goes On echoed through the New York night, and the 7 members stood in a tight line, breathing heavily, drenched in sweat, and holding on to each other for physical support as the stadium erupted into a deafening roar, the world didn't just see pop stars, they saw immortal warriors who had conquered their own limitations to deliver a flawless masterpiece. The realization of what they secretly endured behind the scenes just to stand on that field for free didn't just shock the army, it profoundly humbled the entire global entertainment community, serving as an inspiring, timeless reminder that true greatness is forged in the fires of absolute sacrifice, pure dedication, and an unbreakable spirit that no amount of money could ever buy. Number 1. The Secret Sign Language Cipher: How the Global Army Crashed the World's Banking Servers. If you thought the absolute climax of this unbelievable, history-making July 19, 2026 World Cup finale was simply the fact that BTS walked away without a massive paycheck, or that they completely shattered the greedy corporate broadcasting rules, then you need to brace yourself, because the ultimate, most mind-blowing secret of the entire night wasn't actually revealed by the media, the executives, or even the 7 members themselves. It was executed flawlessly by the global army in a display of unprecedented, earth-shattering collective power that literally brought the international banking system to its knees. To truly understand the absolute pinnacle of this emotional roller coaster, we have to zoom in on the final 3 minutes of the halftime performance. After the explosive, physically devastating choreography of Run BTS left the 82,500 fans in the MetLife Stadium breathless and screaming for more, the chaotic stadium lights suddenly dimmed into absolute pitch-black darkness. A sweeping, profound silence washed over the massive arena, a silence so thick and heavy with anticipation that you could hear a pin drop on the sacred football pitch. Suddenly, a single piercing beam of pure purple light broke through the darkness, illuminating the 7 members standing shoulder to shoulder, completely drenched in sweat, breathing heavily, but smiling with an angelic, ethereal grace. As the soft, tear-jerking acoustic guitar intro of Life Goes On began to echo through the state-of-the-art stadium speakers, something incredibly subtle but profoundly significant happened. Instead of executing their standard, well-known choreography for the chorus, RM, Jin, Suga, J-Hope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook simultaneously raised their hands and began performing a brand new, deeply intricate sequence of delicate hand movements that were completely foreign to the millions of casual sports fans watching around the globe. To the untrained eye of a standard FIFA executive or a casual football enthusiast, it just looked like a beautiful, emotional piece of contemporary theatrical dance designed to fit the mellow vibe of the song. But to the fiercely observant, highly intelligent, and deeply connected global army, this wasn't just a dance move, it was a highly sophisticated secret cipher. Within literally seconds of the broadcast, eagle-eyed K-armies and international fan translators on Weverse, X, and TikTok recognized that the members were perfectly and flawlessly blending international sign language with traditional Korean deaf-blind tactile signs. As the massive broadcast camera dramatically panned across their deeply emotional faces, capturing the glistening tears in Jungkook's eyes and the unwavering, commanding gaze of RM, the fandom frantically decoded the hidden message in real time. The hand movements translated to a deeply poetic, devastatingly beautiful command. "We gave our all for them. Now it is your turn to change the world. Match our heartbeat." The absolute genius of this secret message was that it completely bypassed the strict, non-commercial rules of the FIFA broadcast. BTS didn't have to explicitly ask for charity donations on the microphone, which would have blatantly violated their creative contract. Instead, they spoke directly to the souls of their fans through a secret visual language forged by over a decade of unbreakable mutual trust. The moment the translation hit the massive global army network, an unprecedented, highly coordinated digital explosion occurred that no financial analyst or tech billionaire could have ever predicted. The army already knew the heavy, heart-wrenching rumor that their beloved boys were performing for absolutely zero financial compensation, pushing their broken, post-military bodies to the absolute limit just to support the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. So the army made a spontaneous, collective, and fiercely unified decision. If the corrupt, multi-billion-dollar corporate world wasn't going to pay BTS for their legendary art, then the fans would pay the universe on their behalf. A massive, unstoppable grassroots campaign instantly erupted under the hashtag #MatchTheirHeartbeat. Millions of fans worldwide simultaneously decided to take the exact monetary value of a premium BTS stadium ticket, roughly between $150 to $300, and donate it directly to the Global Citizen Charity Portal under the group's name. What happened next was a literal, documented technological catastrophe that will be studied in university economics classes for decades to come. Because the global army is a massive, hyper-mobilized demographic consisting of tens of millions of working-class adults, doctors, lawyers, students, and professionals across every single time zone on Earth. The sheer volume of simultaneous digital transactions triggered a catastrophic, system-wide overload. Exactly 4 minutes after BTS struck their final iconic pose on the MetLife Stadium and the broadcast cut back to the bewildered sports commentators, the official Global Citizen donation website completely crashed, entirely annihilated by a staggering 25 million unique visitors trying to process credit card payments all at the exact same second. But the army didn't stop there. When the charity portal went down in flames, they aggressively pivoted to direct bank transfers, PayPal pools, and massive GoFundMe proxy servers. The sheer, terrifying velocity of millions of rapid-fire international money transfers moving across borders simultaneously triggered automatic cybersecurity defense protocols within major global banking networks like Visa and MasterCard, whose internal AI systems falsely flagged the massive financial surge as a highly coordinated state-sponsored cyber attack. For approximately 22 terrifying minutes, banking servers across North America, South Korea, Japan, and parts of Europe experienced severe, widespread latency issues and temporary freezes. IT executives at the world's largest financial institutions were violently awoken in the middle of the night, utterly panicked, only to discover that the dangerous hackers breaking their multi-billion-dollar server infrastructure were just millions of of crying, deeply inspired pop music fans furiously donating their life savings to build schools for impoverished children. By the time the referee blew his whistle to kick off the second half of the World Cup final, the global army had organically, spontaneously raised an absolutely mind-numbing, world record-shattering sum of over $250 million in less than 45 minutes. They completely blew past the original $100 million goal of the entire FIFA corporate campaign in the time it takes to watch a single episode of a television sitcom. The billionaire corporate sponsors, who had spent weeks patting themselves on the back for their calculated, tax-deductible million-dollar donations, were left looking absolutely microscopic, completely humiliated by the raw, unstoppable financial power of normal, everyday people united by pure love. Think about the profound poetic justice radiating from this moment. The boys who once slept in a cramped single-room dormitory, who were mercilessly cut from public broadcasts because they didn't have the financial backing of the big three agencies, had now become the undisputed kings of a new, compassionate global order. The beautiful legacy of their Love Myself UNICEF campaign had fully blossomed into a tangible, world-altering force. Every single dollar that crashed those servers meant a new brick laid for a school in a war-torn region, a new textbook for a child who had never seen the inside of a classroom, and a new football for kids playing barefoot in the streets. Imagine the surreal cinematic moment inside the MetLife Stadium when legendary sports commentators whose only job is to analyze football tactics were suddenly handed a breaking news bulletin on live television, their voices trembling with genuine, unfiltered shock as they announced to 3.5 billion viewers that the fans of the halftime performers had just initiated the largest, fastest, spontaneous philanthropic wealth transfer in human history. This unbelievable climax is the ultimate reason why the zero paycheck reality completely shocked the world. It obliterated the cynical, transactional nature of the modern entertainment industry. BTS didn't need a massive corporate paycheck because they possessed something infinitely more valuable than all the gold sitting in the cold vaults of the Swiss banking system. They possessed the undying, ferocious loyalty of a fandom that could literally move mountains and rewrite the global economy on command. When the seven boys finally retreated to their backstage dressing rooms, exhausted, bruised, and emotionally drained, and RM looked at his glowing phone screen to see the astronomical, system-breaking numbers the Army had achieved in their honor, they didn't just celebrate a successful stadium concert, they celebrated the ultimate, undeniable proof of their life's philosophy.